Hi, everyone. It's Michelle Jackson, and I am here to talk to another amazing BWW author. I am the founder of the BWW. I am also the author of two books. One is a Christian fiction book, and one is general fiction. And every week I get an opportunity to speak to some amazing authors from the page. And today is no different. We have Elizabeth Hylton, who's here to talk about her book of poetry. We're going to learn from her. We are going to experience this experience with her. And we're going to do a couple of other things too. We're going to get an opportunity to ask questions. And so if you have any questions for Elizabeth, please put those in your chat box and I will convey those to her. Also, before we bring on the screen, there are a couple of things I would love for you to do. If you're watching this on Facebook, please share it on your page so that we can optimize the number of people who are watching. If you're watching it on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page and tell everyone about the Black Writers Workspace. We are so proud of the work that we're doing. And so for now, let's bring on Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. How's everything going?
Good. Hello. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It is also such a pleasure to have you. I'm excited to talk to you. I love talking with poets. I think that you guys are some of the most insightful people, but you, per se, you've got a lot going on. You are a nurse, you are an actress, you are a poet, and I don't want to confine you to those things. I'm sure there's so many other things that you're doing as well. But to get us started, tell us about yourself and tell us about your book.
Yeah, so those things are all true. I'm from Massachusetts. My parents are Jamaican. I was raised here. Fell in love with theater and writing from a really young age. I started writing at like age 11, and it was like natural to me. It was something that helped me cope just with everything I was going through as a child. And you know, I ended up majoring in theater at Holy Cross here in Worcester, Mass. And then, you know, I think just instinctively I'm a healer. So I went on to pursue nursing and I became a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And I'm actually in school now studying to be a drama therapist, which is really using theater for healing purposes. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your book, Pelu Ife.
Pelu Ife, which is
that's
okay. That's okay. It's a Yoruba word, which actually means with love. And I chose that title for a couple of reasons. One, because it was kind of my way of feeling connected with my ancestral heritage, because, you know, we're all displaced people, but originally we are from West Africa. So that is a language of West Africa spoken primarily in Southwest Nigeria, and my DNA test did say I'm Nigerian. So, and I just really, so I chose it for that reason. And I loved that it meant with love, because the poetry that I wrote and produced in this book, I'm really offering to the world with love, and hoping that it speaks to the people who read it and that it moves or helps transform somebody else, because that's what poetry really has been for me throughout my life.
That's what's so beautiful about poetry. It is connecting. It's an insightful and in-depth look into the brain, the mind of people who have a level of creativity that is a bit different, I think, than others. Because to write poetry, you must know how to communicate something very deep, very personal, in very short and almost abstract ways. And so poets are amazing people. We see what is happening now with Amanda Gorman and how her poetry has just taken everyone by storm. But I will say this, I absolutely love what she's doing. But there are so many amazing Black poets out there. So that's one of the reasons why this conversation is so important. There's a little bit of feedback, everybody. I'm not sure where they come from, but hey, we're going to keep pushing and keep moving forward. So you are, your parents are Jamaican,
Mhm.
and you came here to the States. You live in Massachusetts. And I can tell you, I love reggae. Okay, I love reggae. I grew up in Alabama, where in the 80s and the 90s, and I can remember a classmate of mine. We would go in the library and we would watch videos of Bob Marley,
Mm.
and I just fell in love with everything about it, from just the rhythm, the drums, the dance, the hair. It always felt so free. Tell me, how has your Jamaican roots impacted your writing?
I think it definitely has, and I appreciate that question. Jamaican culture is very artistic, right? Bob Marley is a poet in a sense, right? Music is a form of poetry. And we also have a lot of Jamaican proverbs that I heard growing up from mother, grandmother, and sometimes you have to stop and think, what does that mean? But I think hearing those different proverbs, which, tell you a message without explicitly telling you a message, helped me develop my writing skills as a poet and learn how to say things in metaphors. So I think that definitely impacted me becoming a poet and the way that I write. Absolutely. Yeah.
I've read your poetry. It's beautiful, and I know you're going to read a little bit of it for
Yeah.
us. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the acting now,
Mhm.
because I would love to know a little bit more about your acting career, because it sounds to me like you are a triple threat, right? You're doing it all. You're the poet, the actress, as well as a nurse, which is just amazing. So, talk to us a little bit about the acting and how does it connect to the writing?
Yeah, so I think, I didn't really recognize that connection immediately, but poetry is storytelling, right? And theater is also storytelling. And, the type of theater that I like to be involved in, the type of shows that I audition for, are shows that tell powerful and meaningful stories. I love feel-good theater, but I prefer to be a part of, plays that are going to deeply move people and make people think and make people question and how they can apply to our everyday lives and things we're going through now. So I actually just finished 2 shows at the Seacoast Rep Theater in New Hampshire, and they were 2 plays, 1-act plays by an original. They were 2 original plays by a Black playwright from New York who brought these 2 shows for the first time to the Seacoast Rep, and both of them were plays that explored the Black identity. The first one was about the historic conversation between Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King regarding the Black Power movement. So it was just amazing to witness that on stage. And then the second act was a love story between a brother and sister, and how his trials and tribulations in life, kind of were a direct result of the oppression of Black men in this country, and what that looked like and what that felt like for him on a deeper level that we don't always necessarily get to see, right? So that's the kind of theater I like, the kind of theater that is going to compel us to make change and to think deeply and emotionally transform us. So I think poetry and theater is connected in that way, in that it's powerful storytelling, and I appreciate powerful storytelling.
Absolutely, absolutely. What is it like to be a poet on the stage? Because, and I ask this question because as a creative soul, we have a tendency to see something different when we see art. When I love dance, and when I see someone dancing, I'm always thinking about every move as being a form of art, not just a whole show, but every movement. If I everything that I see that's art, I see it a little differently. I notice than people who aren't very creative. And so I wonder, what does it feel like for you on the stage, acting, and you're talking about the theater of resistance in some ways, Black issues, dealing with issues, and being the face of it in that moment with the audience and being there to help them experience these things. As a poet, does that drive you? Does the poetry influence the stage acting, or does the stage acting influence the poetry?
That's a great question, actually, because I think, it's the performance is different when I'm performing like my poetry versus when I'm performing on stage. I think when I'm on stage performing like in plays, like dealing with like these heavy topics, it's almost liberating because you are commanding the attention of everybody in that room, and you're pulling them into the story, and you're going to hear it and you're going to listen to it, and it's going to do something for them, and hopefully something good. So I feel less vulnerable when I'm acting in that sense, because it's like a liberating voice. Like, here I am. This is somebody's story. This is somebody's reality, and I'm bringing life to it. And you paid your tickets, and you're forced to sit here and listen to it for the rest of the night. So I think it's empowering too, as well. Doing that kind of theater, it's very empowering, because you feel like you are giving a voice to the marginalized and a voice to the unheard. I think with performing my own work, theater has definitely helped with that, because when I'm performing my own poetry, there's a different level of vulnerability that comes with it. Because, a lot of my poems are from either my own experiences or my friends' experiences. So they're coming from a different place. So it's hitting different when you're performing it. And I actually had the experience recently where I was reading some poetry that I wrote for a couple of my castmates, and I started crying during reading one of, and that's never happened to me before on stage, reading my own poem. So it's definitely a different level of vulnerability, because it's your story. But I think, through theater, it kind of gave me the ability to sit in that space of vulnerability and be able to share my writing with others. Some level of
that. I love that for a number of reasons. One is I always say this when I talk to writers, they're so insightful. Like, you guys are so insightful. And I believe that's because when you write, you make a contract with yourself and with the reader. And the contract with yourself is, I will be open. Okay. Because you cannot write and not be authentic and open. And that's where the tears and the emotion and the passion comes from. If you have someone who's say, hey, I'm a writer, but nothing moves them. It's like the work moves you if you're really sincere about it. So let's hear a little bit about a little poem. Give me one of your poems, not a little poem, but give me a little bit of a poem, because we want to hear in your words your work. And I know this book is about self-love. And as an African-American woman, self-love has become kind of my second platform right now, because I believe that we're not loving each other ourselves enough, And so I'm happy to have a writer like you. I read your poetry. I love the short sentences. I love the impactful meaning. But we would love to hear you read some of your poetry. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you can.
Oh, no, sure, no problem. Yeah. Okay. And I love what you said, because I am definitely in the season of self-love, and also just loving all the amazing Black women who surround me and keep me and cover me. And I think we need more of that. We always need more of that. So absolutely. I appreciate that. So I will, this is just the cover of the book. I'll show you. But yeah, so the one that I chose, I like it for Women's History Month, because yeah, I'll just read it and you'll know why. Headless Barbie dolls were stripped naked without our consent and eventually forgotten. Why is it the first thing they always say is, "You're sexy," murdering us instantaneously with their eyes? I imagine turning myself inside out, cocooning myself in endoskeleton, lips red with lactotoxin. I'm ready for you.
Barbie dolls. So what inspired you to write that?
So that one came from a place of frustration in trying to date, right? And I think a lot of times when we're dating, men or women, whoever it may be that you're dating, they can fall in love with an idea of who you are, right? They see you and you check the boxes. Okay, you're pretty, you have a degree, you have assets, okay, and they don't see beyond that, right? And one thing I found when I was dating, it was always, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you're so sexy. Oh," and I'm like, okay, but there's more to me. There's so much more to me. Like, thank you, but that's not the first thing that I as a woman want to hear. Like, I rather you tell me I'm intelligent. I rather you tell me I'm brave. I rather you tell me something else. Come with something better than that. And so, and just women being, made into objects and objectified, and us not being valued and viewed for, the other amazing things that we are. So it came out of just the frustration with that.
Writing is therapeutic. It is your way, my way, so many other writers, our way of dumping our feelings into the paper, because we're trying to examine it. It's what better way to examine it than to see it in writing. And I love what you said. So I've been married for 18 years, but I remember I didn't marry until I was 28. And I remember how much I hated dating.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so much has changed since I was single. And you guys are dating online. And what is the first thing they see is the picture. Yeah. And so I love what you're saying, because as a woman, we have to continuously push men, women, whoever we're dating into something bigger. See me, expand your ideas about who I am, get to know me. So I really do like that. What is the name of that poem?
So I don't really title most of my poems, so they're mostly untitled. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So talk to us a little bit about the untitled poems and why did you decide to do that?
Well, I don't like to title them because I think each poem is going to hit every person different depending on where they are in their journey. So by not giving it a title, it doesn't set you up to anticipate anything specific from what you read. And I think so when it's untitled, you read it and you can draw what you need or what you want or what you feel or what you see from it. So that's the main reason I don't title them. Yeah, I want people to title them themselves.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I've got to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it, and I'm going to ask everyone to please chime in if you have any questions for me, for Elizabeth. This is a great time to do it. I don't want to move forward talking about the writing or your publishing, which is what we're going to get into more, without talking about your job as a nurse. Okay, that's different than many of us have 9 to 5. That's not odd. But you have a very unique background. Talk to us about how the writing, the acting plays a role in your day-to-day, your 9 to 5.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a connection in the healing sense. I think all of the things that I do are in the realm of healing. I think poetry is healing. I think art is healing. I think it's all therapy, right? And so I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So I do brief psychotherapy with patients, and I also prescribe psychiatric medications. And so I interact with people from all different walks of life. And so I think, through exploring myself, and different emotions through poetry, through experiencing and, bearing witness to other people's stories through theater, it opens my mindset and it opens my ability to kind of embrace everybody who comes into my office, depending, because everyone's in a different part in their journey. Everyone's coming from different walks of life. So I think it definitely allows me to see every patient uniquely from a different perspective. And relate to them more, because there might have been something that I explored through my own artistry that this person is dealing with, where I've, had the opportunity to experience those emotions through, doing a play or a theater piece. So I think in the therapeutic sense, they all kind of tie in. And that kind of like in-depth exploration that you do with yourself through theater definitely allows you to help other people along on that self-exploration. So it ties in that sense for sure.
Writers are healers. I do believe that. And I love what you said. So let's shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about work-life balance. And I'm going to ask this question not because I need you to give me the G-rated answer of it, but because I'm asking. I ask this question a lot because we as women are often asked about work-life balance. I don't want to be sexist, but I rarely hear men being asked about work-life balance. You do many things, and I've only named three, and I'm sure there are many other things that you do. Um, is there a real thing called work-life balance for you, or do you feel like to have a certain level of success in all the things that you do, that you have to make that sacrifice to not have a little bit of self-life, work life?
So I think learning how to find that work-life balance was definitely something that I had to do. And especially in working in the psych field, you have to set boundaries for yourself. And, especially being somebody who's just very naturally caring and empathetic, you want to be on 24/7 for people. But I had to, very quickly learn that when my workday is over with my day job, my workday is over unless it's an emergency, because otherwise it's very easy to just continue to pour yourself into others when you also need to pour into yourself. So I think it was something that I definitely learned. Right now, I only work as a nurse practitioner 4 days a week because I realized for my mental health, that was the way that I was going to be most effective for my patients. And that was the way that I was going to be best able to take care of myself. And I'm a real advocate for a 4-day work week. I wish the United States would move towards a 4-day work week. But when I meet young nurse practitioners just getting into the field, that is something that I encourage, because what we do in the psychiatric field is, it takes a lot of yourself mentally, emotionally. So I had to put limitations for myself and say, okay, you know what, for my mental health, if I'm going to, they say, put on your oxygen mask first. If I'm going to be effective at this job, and if I'm going to take care of myself, then I need to do this 4 days a week. And when my workday ends, unless it's an emergency, or unless, a patient is in dire need and I need to stay a little bit later. But I'm pretty clear with those boundaries with myself, because I learned I needed to, so I wouldn't burn out, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So who is your favorite poet?
So I love Langston Hughes. I'm a big Langston Hughes fan, but Rupi Kaur right now, when she came out with Milk and Honey, actually that inspired me to publish my poems, because I read her work and it was so moving, and it was, I related to it so much. And I said, you know what? I'm going to publish my poems. Like, I feel like I can do that, because I struggled a lot with, is my writing too vulnerable to share with the world, and then when I saw that she did it, confidently, so it kind of gave me a little bit of a nudge to say, you know what, I'm going to publish my work. I can do this.
We all, I know for myself, I went through a period of being afraid. I call it fear, everyone won't call it fear, but for me, it was just being honest and transparent, being afraid to put my work out there, because a number of reasons. First, I'm self-published, and I didn't really seek a deal, but it becomes a situation. Can I do this? Can I do this? I don't have the marketing machine behind me. It's just me. But then I felt like the world was calling for it. It was like, if I didn't do it, what would I be denying that one person who's going to learn from it and be able to be a better person because of it? Tell me, who is the one person that you wrote this book of poetry for? Define that person.
Yeah, so I guess, I wrote it for anybody who is struggling with how to love themselves.
I think I lost her.
Are you hearing me?
Okay, I can hear you, but you're just frozen on the screen. But we, let's see, maybe you'll, there, I think you're coming back to us.
Okay.
We can hear you though. I just want to make sure that we get
probably my Wi-Fi. But yeah, so I guess I'm not sure how much you heard, but for anyone on a journey of self-love, right? We all have different attachment styles. We all had different, experiences of love growing up, depending on who raised us. And it can be confusing, right? That journey of discovering, what does it feel like to be loved? What is love supposed to feel like? And when people say self-love, what is that, right? What does that supposed to look like or feel like. So it's really just anyone kind of on that journey with love, you know, and it's a journey for all of us, I think. So, yeah.
It is. It is a journey for all of us. And it's something that, like I said, I feel like has become my calling. Every year I come up with something that I'm going to really focus on to better myself. And self-love is a big part of that. And so we're very, very grateful to you for writing this book of poetry. And we do encourage everyone to go out and to purchase it. Tell us about your publishing. Is it self-published or
self-published? Yeah. So I decided when I was putting this book together that I wasn't even going to pursue any publishing company at all. I felt like, I wrote this book from my heart, and I didn't feel like I needed anybody to tell me this is good enough. Or, I didn't feel like I needed that validation. I felt, this came from me. It's honest, it's raw, it's vulnerable, it's from the heart. And if it will help somebody, I'm going to put it out there, and I don't need someone to be a gatekeeper to that. So that's what kind of led me to just go ahead and self-publish it.
A lot of what we do at the BWW is about putting the spotlight on our self-published authors, because that's important to me. I don't feel like there is enough being done to showcase the great work that's coming from Black writers who aren't standing, arm in arm with a larger publishing house. Like, there are so many excellent writers out there. But a lot of times, we spend years writing and then we sell 200 books and it just doesn't go anywhere. But a lot of us don't seek the deals because it's too hard to get them. And there is still so many biases in what work is published and what is not. So as someone who feels the world is calling for our work, you just decide to put it out there. It doesn't mean that you couldn't get the deal. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It just means that you felt like it was more important to you, and I felt the same way, to put the work out there, let the world decide, versus being validated by a system that may not be fair for whatever reason. So congratulations on making that decision. When did you publish your book? You told me February
this year. Yep, right before Valentine's Day. Yeah.
That is excellent. Talk to me about putting a book out in the midst of COVID, because I dropped my book February 14th of last year. And a month later, we were stuck in the house and I couldn't go out and promote it. And, it's a big decision to do it. But talk to us about, have you learned anything about the marketing game, without being able to go out to these trade shows? What do you do to market your book?
Yeah, so I was definitely nervous about it, putting it out during COVID, but then I thought, you know what, people are stuck home. They need something to do. So maybe this will give them something to do. They can read a book of poems. But I definitely learned the importance of social media. So, and I'm still navigating that, because that's primarily where I'm promoting the book, is on social media, and using like Instagram. I created like a separate Instagram from my page just to push out poetry, and I'm actually putting new poetry on there too, not just from the book. But I definitely have learned the importance and power of Instagram and Facebook. I've kind of spent more time exploring Instagram and pushing it there, but just how powerful social media can be, and kind of trying to surround myself in social media platforms with like-minded individuals, other authors, other writers, other poets, other artists, right? And just those connections are just also so essential and necessary.
What are your readers saying about your work?
I've gotten good feedback from people who have reached out after reading it, so I'm happy about that. It's always nice to hear that from, especially if it's people you trust too. It's nice to hear that it's good.
Well, that's like good to hear. That is always good to hear. And once again,
nothing negative yet.
and there's nothing negative about even a critical comment, because it makes you stronger, and that's what's important about it. And so we are open up for questions. We have a couple of seconds left on this interview. I am so excited to have met you, and to have heard you read your poetry. I saw so many pictures of you reading
Aw,
your poetry at events and being on the stage. And I know the stage life is something that you're comfortable with. A lot of us aren't. We are so inspired by someone who's brave enough to step on that stage, whether you're acting or reading your poetry. And so
thank
that's
you.
something that I want to just express to you. Please don't stop being great. Just keep
Thank you. Thank
because
you.
it's I know how hard it is. I know some days it's probably like, what am I doing? What am I doing? But you're doing great work across the board, from being a nurse who's a healer and someone who's giving back to people in need, to writing poetry that is about healing yourself, and then being an actress who's on the stage as a beautiful Black woman who's being a part of a movement. We're all a part of a movement at this point, especially as African American writers. So I want to thank you so much for being a part of this interview. Do you have any questions for me? Something I never asked, but I'm going to start asking that question more.
I don't, but I just want to thank you for opening this space to me and welcoming me here and giving me this opportunity. You know, it's always very heartwarming when other women of color support you and lift you up. So I just want to thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And we had someone to chime in and say this is an inspirational interview. And I feel the same. I am very inspired by you. I write a little poetry, but a lot of times it's like, okay, this is not what I was made for, people. So I stay in my lane. But I love what you're doing. I love everything that you represent. And I just hope that you continue to do what you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Stay with us for a second. I'm going to talk to the audience, and then we will talk a little bit afterwards, so you will know where to find this particular interview.
Okay.
Everybody, I just wanted to take a little time to tell you this. Thank you so much for just following us and being a part of these weekly interviews. We have had some amazing interviews, and we're getting really good viewership, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. But we need you to continue to tell people about these interviews, because this is all about selling books. And I'm going to bring Elizabeth back on to talk about where you can buy her book. So forgive me for that. But I just want to stop and thank the BWW community for everything that you are doing, and to invite others to join us at the Black Writers Workspace. So we're going to bring Elizabeth back because I did not ask her a very key question. Elizabeth, I'm sorry, tell the audience where they can find your book.
Yes, so my book is available on Amazon. Again, it's Pelu Ife. It's Peluife. You can find the link to the Amazon on my Instagram, which is ellie.hylton. It's ELLIE.HYLTON.
That is great. That is great. So we are going to support you. That is something that we're going to do this week, is to make sure that we support you, because that's what this page is all about. And just once again, thank you for being a part of the interview. Take care.
Bye.